The Ash, Lutzi and Susie Snackbox.
She played the the pre-game show for the AFL. Katy Perry, I'm talking about. She is coming to Brizzy next year.
What did you think of her performance?
Yeah, pretty epic. I don't know. Lutzi, you were there.
Live was amazing. I don't know how it sounded.
Yeah, it sounded good.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
And I thought they tried to visually make it look good if you were at home. Actually, I don't know if I liked the artificial intelligence. If you were at home, you would know this. But on TV, these weird arms came out of the ground and were swinging around the field, which is obviously just all kind of AI. And it was a bit weird.
What do you mean? What do you mean? I wasn't actually there. No, I'm serious. I don't. No,
Well, you wouldn't have seen it, would you?
I didn't see it. So I don't know what
Yes,
you're
because
talking
you
about.
were there. That's fair.
So there
yes,
wasn't that they added to
they
it?
were just like graphics of like weird robotic arms, 4 of them, kind of around her, and they maybe had love hearts. I reckon it was in one of her new songs, which was like very contentious between her and the AFL. They wanted her to play her back catalogue, just play the big hits.
Yes.
And she was like, "We are playing stuff from my new album I'm about to tour."
Did she play a new song?
She did.
She did.
So I reckon maybe she did too.
I heard one that I had no idea what it was.
Yeah.
That would have been it. I thought it was pretty generous of her, given, because we spoke about that she shared that song with Tina
Arena. I know.
She did a Tina Arena song, Chains.
Yeah, but Chains has had like a remix recently. Actually, it's pretty.
Yeah, that's what they
Banging,
did. It was a different sounding one to change.
But isn't that kind of the Aussie thing? It's like you want to win over an Aussie crowd, bring out an Australian. It's the John Farnham kind of effect.
But it's Tina Arena.
Yeah.
God bless her. But I mean,
Who were you hoping for? Kylie Minogue?
Well, I reckon when you pay Katy Perry $5 million, I'm hoping for Katy Perry. Like, I don't understand why Katy Perry, being a $5 million super talent, would go, you know what? How about we drag one of your old ones out?
Yeah.
And I'll share the stage with her. I found that quite bizarre.
And I suppose Chains isn't exactly like a horse's kind of
No,
banger.
it ain't.
Voice. Is it?
It's a good captain of the second 11, as we say.
What song went off like in the stadium?
Probably Raw.
Yeah. Well, because that was
And
no
Oz
one
the
thought
Lions.
she was allowed to sing it, and she did it
We
anyway.
thought maybe she'd say that the eye of the lion instead of the tiger, which she didn't do. But it still had a very Brisbane sort of vibe about it.
I was reading just that on that $5 million price tag for Katy Perry that the AFL's first choice was actually the Rolling Stones.
Wow.
Really?
And they put an offer to the Stones. No, they didn't put an offer. The Stones said, we'll come down, we'll do 5 songs, but it's $20 million.
Jeez.
$20 million.
I don't know if that would go off after Kiss last year, you know?
You don't reckon? Oh, the Stones.
I don't know, though. I thought Katy Perry's a good pivot for them.
I thought it was good. I thought it was a
High
good
energy, and she did do a good job.
Yeah.
It looked great.
Oh, what about the game itself? I'll tell you what was great was that it was over. So you could actually
When did you call it? Because I got an interesting point on
Well, we were all on those text messages, and I was one of those ones last year for the Broncos that I called it the stadium when we were up by whatever.
Yeah,
so I was reluctant to do it this year, but by the same token, I was like, "There's no way. There's no way they're going to let this slip."
When?
Well, I felt by half time we had it in the can.
No, I didn't.
No,
think
fourth quarter for me.
No way.
But it wasn't until probably 3/4 time that I went, okay, now we can't possibly lose it.
We just have a habit of kind of not playing fourth quarters, although through finals we've absolutely, like, fourth quarters is where we've shone, like against GWS and Geelong. But I was still, even going into that fourth quarter, I was like, we could lose this. Like, we genuinely could, but the Swans just did not turn up.
They didn't even look like turning up.
No.
But we were waiting for them to turn up.
Yes,
They're a
just
great
in
team.
case.
Like before 3/4 time,
Yeah.
I remember saying to Al, like, they can put 40 on us in a heartbeat.
Totally.
Like, they're the team that can do it. Then we went to the toilet. Me and Al went.
Well, that's
for
a
some
bad. That's
reason,
you knew it was over.
Just before 3/4 time, we went to the toilet, and Mel Michael, the Lions superstar, ex-superstar, was literally at the urinal next to us at a packed toilet. And we went, Mel, can we call it yet? And Mel Michael went, we've got this, it's over. And the whole urinal went, Mel Michael, call that! And we all cheered. And at that point, I guess at 3/4 time,
Yeah.
It's not as satisfying of a win when it's a 4.
I don't know.
I
After
I
last
think you'd
year.
take it
Yeah.
at that point.
Well, obviously you take.
I know, but I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I would rather that than a
Just
close
that,
one.
like,
So
we
would
had
I actually.
such epic games.
Yeah.
The 2 games prior to that. I mean, look, the first quarter was actually intense, and I was like, thank God I bought a babysitter because I didn't want my children around.
Yeah.
I wanted to watch
Full
the
focus.
game
Yeah, okay.
uninterrupted, and I thought it's so good I can do this. But then the rest of the game, you were like, oh, okay, could probably handle the kids here.
Yeah.
No stress.
Yeah,
I actually just enjoyed the relief of being
Yeah.
able to actually
Knowing we were taking it
yeah,
home.
without knowing it's going to be ripped off us at the last moment. Did you see I was saying to Lockie before the show, the footage of John Longmire, the Swans coach, in the press conference after the game? Have you seen that, Lutzy?
No.
We've got to find the audio, but it's the greatest example of the difference between winning a grand final and losing a grand final, because he had to come and front the media, sit down for his post-game press conference, but in the room next door was the Brisbane Lions dressing shed.
Oh, I can hear it.
And bleeding through.
You can actually hear them.
Yeah, bleeding through audio-wise, the whole of the press conference is the Brisbane Lions just yahooing and singing their songs, and just an explosion of ecstatic happiness
But
coming
that was
through
us
from next
last
door.
year, right? Like,
Yeah.
that was us. And by 2 points. Like, Sydney lost that badly and they need to do some soul searching. Whereas last year it was like we lost it by a sniff of like
What was the margin last year? Was
2
it
points.
Yeah.
I've got a mate who's from America, and he was at the airport flying back, and he took a photo of the Sydney Swans players getting photos with the crowd. And he goes, only in Australia do you lose a grand final of like the biggest sport in the country and have to fly commercial with all the fans back to your city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Ash, Lutzy and Susie Snackbox.
The tale of two teams, and the reason I say that
You've had
is-
to go into a poem?
yeah, a little bit, but it's the overwhelming thing from the spectators and the fans that were in Melbourne.
What was the crowd, by the way?
100,000.
It was 100,000.
17, I think.
Wow.
Nick? Yep.
13, I think. Yep.
Yep. 100,000. But particularly at the aftermatch, the official Lions aftermatch function, which is obviously all Lions fans, the overwhelming there was still a bit of shock because it was only an hour after the end of the game kind of thing when it started. But we realised that, and I use this word obviously with perspective of sport, the word trauma. But there was a lot of trauma trauma was the word that we had trauma from last year. Like we had.
That's fair.
And for those that went, or not even if you went to the game, if you were just watching, a lot of people that were celebrating the Lions' victory are also Brisbane Broncos fans. And the double trauma that people had last year, like I went to both games, and as a fan, it was a traumatic experience. That even sitting at the game, like a lot of people were saying at the post-match function for the Lions, saying, "I just don't know what I would have done if we lost again this game." You're talking about the Swans, and that's a traumatic experience for a fan to come back and to have to sit through a loss at the MCG again. You start thinking, well, when do we get a win? Like, when's a win? Not even for the Lions. When's a win happen for Brisbane? Like the Broncos have, and then you go back and I know that the narrative of a team this year with Kevy Walters and with Chris Fagan is that last year's history. Let's move on, and it's a new game, it's a new team, it's a new whatever. But having said that, if fans are still feeling trauma, like the magnification of that to an athlete,
Of course.
how can you not possibly let the effects of a year ago impact your team for this year? Like it's impossible for that to happen, and it happened. So the tale of two teams thing is that okay. So when you look at the two teams, when you look at the Broncos and the Lions, although there's different circumstances surrounding both of them, they both had quite devastating losses. The Broncos, you would say, more devastating, the fact that they lost what was at one point with 18 minutes to go, almost an unlosable grand final. But what's happened this year is that at some point, and both teams almost, it looked like, lost belief at one point in the season this year.
Looked like they lost belief.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Both teams had troughs.
Had troughs.
Yep.
And at some point it became a seemingly impossible task. Like the Bronx, just duck dived and kept going. The Lions, I think, got to 13th, Nick, at one point of the season.
Yeah, I mean, we finished 5th on the ladder going into finals and played so much finals footy to get to the grand final.
Yeah,
so it's a pretty impressive.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to know what happens behind closed doors to galvanise the team. Apparently, the Lions wrote down lessons learned last year and pulled them out into finals this year. Like they physically did a time capsule.
Yeah.
And this year we're like, all right, what did we learn? Let's go right back into that moment.
Yeah, and then therein lies the point again that one team was able to raise themselves from, resurrect themselves from disaster.
Yep.
And one team was unable to do that.
And again, Chris Fagan said last year, grand finals, like a loss doesn't have to define you, it can make you. It's like even in that loss last year, I reckon he knew we got it in us.
Yeah, well, and again, so there you go. So there's something within what happened there where even if the Lions at some point this year, and they had their troubles, they had, there was talks of fractures within the team.
Yeah.
There was
Vegas.
off-field incidences in Las Vegas. They could have capitulated.
I wonder, are they going to Vegas this week?
Probably not.
I dare
I
say
hope so,
not.
because, it worked out well from in the end.
Well, exactly. It still worked.
The off-season celebration.
It still
as
worked.
A team.
So
But for the Broncos, it didn't work.
No.
For the Broncos, it went the complete opposite way, and what became a celebration of team and a lauding of a coach literally became the capitulation of a team and the dumping of a coach.
Do you think there's more
And
leaders?
the tale of two teams that effectively 1 year ago were at a very, very similar standpoint.
Yep.
And two completely different trajectories.
I reckon you're right about leadership and even just that young group, right? So the Lions have a lot of young guys. They're like name players. Like you've got Will Ashcroft, his dad played in the premiership team. You've got, but then you look at that in the Bronx and you're talking about
Like young players?
Young
Well, yeah,
players.
Reece Walsh and Ezra Mam.
And the humility and kind of low level, just like I'm happy to fly in under the wing of a Harris Andrews that you see at the Lions. Are you seeing that at the Bronx?
Yeah, well, that's the questions. There's a bunch of questions to get thrown up now.
Yeah. Yeah, but the reason that I said before, because both teams did appear to lose hope, but I don't think I'll forget when Lockie came in here when the Lions were struggling before they went on their big winning streak.
Yep.
And I don't even remember if the conversation was on air or off air, but he was adamant and so self-assured in the fact that we're right, we know what we need to do. We know what we need to do and that we still believe that we can do it. And at that point, if you had said the Brisbane Lions are going to win the premiership, I don't know what they got out to on the betting odds.
It almost seemed a little bit absurd what he was saying. It was almost like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, you're battling and you're saying you're still hitting what do you say, your KPIs?
Yeah,
Yeah.
KPIs.
He used terms like that where you're
Yes.
going, we're still doing this, that, and that. I'm like, well, man, it ain't look like that on the field. Like, it was almost seemed like you're being a little bit delusional, Lockie.
Yeah,
didn't it?
But
Like,
a
at that
tremendous
time.
amount of belief that they had, and then they went out there and they were able to execute it. And you can tell that Brisbane Lions squad, club, because the scenes with the girls after their win there yesterday, you can tell that is a club that has great culture.
Yeah.
Like great culture and great respect, and to see guys like Brownie and Blackie and Mel Michael and Acker and all of the former champions be embraced and be welcomed back into that club. But not only that, the fact that they want to be at that club. Where I read in the paper this morning that Alfie is taking some time off to work out if he wants to run the water or not.
That'd be a huge
I'm
loss.
telling you, if Alfie doesn't want to run like having Alfie out there running the water for the Broncos. To me, as an old bloke, I go, I believe in the Broncos because I know that guy. I know what he's all about. I know what a champion he is.
Yeah.
And I know that every time that he played for the Broncos, he gave it everything. And if he doesn't want to be out there running the water, that's a warning sign for me. But you're right, there's two teams in a similar position 12 months ago who responded completely differently this year.
Huge weekend at both teams, like the news of Kevy and then
a
premiership on a Saturday.
I'm still coming to terms with the Kevy sack.
Yeah.
The Ash, Lutzi and Susie Snackbox.
My social media algorithm over the weekend especially, or in fact since I got back from New York, because I was in New York when P. Diddy, Puff, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
I feel so good, by the way, now that I don't care if I get his name wrong. It used to be
Which
one of those ones
iteration?
I go, Diddy, and they go, it's Puff Diddy, or it's Puff.
Yeah.
It's whoever now. But I was in New York when he actually got arrested. In fact, he was in Central Park, and I was around Central Park. I was like, I wonder if we were close, like when he was, when he was actually taken into custody. But my algorithm now is just blowing up with all of the Diddy stuff and the charges that he's facing. And we had David Boywood on the show last week from Channel 7 to tell us about that. There's serious allegations that he's been charged with, and he faces a lengthy time in prison. But one of the guys that I've really got into is 50 Cent, because 50 Cent he's been at war with Eminem for like 20 years. And now a lot of what 50 Cent has been saying for 20 years is starting to ring true. And 50 Cent is one of those sort of unique characters that he'd be a terrible guy to not have on your side, because he's kind of he's quirky, he's kind of funny, but he's 50 Cent, and he'll bring it. And one of the casing points for that is Ja Rule, because 50 Cent used to have a big dispute when they first came onto the scene as rappers. There was a guy called Ja Rule. Have you heard of him?
You're saying it like I don't know who it is. Of course I do.
Oh, this is Joe.
What a banger.
So Ja Rule, back in the day, he was coming through, so was 50 Cent, and I don't know what the dispute was, but it got ugly between the two. And then evidently Ja Rule ended up spending some time in jail.
They're all gangsters, right?
Yeah.
Like full on.
His career nosedived, and when Ja Rule came out of prison and tried to get his career back on track, he had a concert that a comeback concert. Do you remember this?
I've seen this. Yeah.
He had a comeback concert, and so put tickets up. Ja Rule, he's back. He's back, and tickets started selling like unbelievably quick for this Ja Rule comeback concert. And then all of a sudden it was sold out, and you can actually watch vision of this. But unbeknownst to Ja Rule, like I think it was like the first 10 rows of the venue, 50 Cent bought every ticket. So Ja Rule had to come out.
There's no one there.
And it's an empty stadium. And still perform as if it was a packed house, doing all the Ja Rule stuff. Well, the news in relation to 50 Cent is that evidently, with Diddy, rather, whatever his name is, he's in lockup at the moment, 50 Cent has been working on a documentary on Puff for the last 10 years.
What?
And over the weekend, they announced that it is going to be on Netflix. I think it's coming out towards the end of this year. A documentary that Fiddy has been the executive producer of and coordinated. That's been 10 years in the
full expose
in the making, full expose on what is going on with Diddy, and the name of it is Diddy Do It.
I think you've answered the question. They're not friends.
Oh no, no.
Holy.
Eminem has a song where he has a crack at Diddy.
Apparently there's heaps of them.
They're so many essays, which is sexual assaults.
Yeah.
You think you're a rapper? Did you leave out the P or something?
Yeah. He didn't just spell the word rapper and leave out.
So this is the thing. It's like there's been all these clues for years.
Yeah.
Well, apparently, if you didn't, I've been oblivious to it, but they've known that he's been shady.
The whole time.
Wow.
Yeah, so anyway, that's one to keep an eye out for. As soon as the trailer comes out for that, we'll play the audio. But apparently that's coming to Netflix by the end of this year.
That's a vendetta. 10 years. He's like, I will keep going at this for a decade.
Yes.
And then he's like, finally he's in jail. Let's release this thing.
Netflix.
I was over at Point Lookout for the grand final on the weekend. And I was really grateful because Jode had been over there for the whole week. School holidays and saying, the weather's been perfect. Apparently it was just like perfect weather Monday to Friday. And then literally I got on that ferry on Friday afternoon. And it wasn't just raining, but it was a rain event over the weekend.
Well.
Oh, you should see the swell. Yeah. It was insane. But I was actually really happy because I didn't want to do much on the Saturday anyway. I was happy to sort of stay inside. I wanted to watch the AFL Grand Final. It's really the only AFL match, if I'm being honest, that I watch from start to finish.
I just want to say I
too.
appreciate that honesty from you, Ash.
Yeah. I'll check in on games through the year, watch a little bit here, watch a little bit there. But the AFL game, it's like horse racing for me too. I'm not into horse racing, but I get into the Melbourne Cup. And so I was happy that the rain came. But we had to stream it on the TV because I don't know if it was weather related or whatever, but for whatever reason, when we went through the normal TV process, it'd blank out all the time. So we streamed it. The Wi-Fi was working, and I've just seen that the ratings have come in for the AFL Grand Final on the weekend, and it's pretty interesting stats.
Just quickly,
here.
so you streamed it through 7, not like KO?
I streamed it through 7.
Yeah, because it's the
plus.
first time
7 plus
7.
sport.
So
7 plus
7
sport.
haven't had the rights for streaming Like you couldn't watch every AFL game on 7 on their streaming platform. You had to have KO, but this is part of their new thing. So this was one of those games you could get no matter where you were on the app. Sorry, keep going.
Okay, yeah, well,
right.
that's interesting with the stat that I'll give you. But first of all, the grand final over the weekend is the most watched television show of this year.
Wow.
Yeah, okay.
It's gone straight to number 1. It had a total TV audience of 4.024 million.
Yeah.
Which includes 655,000 on 7 Plus Sport. I was one of them, and that is up 44%
Video on demand.
on last year.
Yeah, no surprise.
It's up 44% from 12 months ago. So, like, for me personally, if I had been back at home on the coast, I probably would have watched it in the traditional format.
Yeah.
But more people, 44% more, have changed their TV watching habits in the last 12 months to go to streaming. As opposed to the traditional delivery mechanism.
Plenty of people
that's
watch
pretty
at
interesting.
home but use the app though.
Well, I-
You
Yeah,
know,
Yeah,
it's
so you're
like
still on your
use your-
TV, but
yeah.
you're going
Yeah.
through 7 Plus,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
on
Well,
the-
because some people
Yeah.
don't get good, like sometimes 7 might not work, like your
Yeah.
aerial or whatever. I
Well,
ended up.
that was the case at Port
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't think
ended up-
in my bedroom I can't. I just have to watch 7 Plus. I
Yeah,
don't know how
okay.
to get the free to air.
Well, I ended up on the Plus app because we lost power at my house sort of just after the fourth quarter started.
Did
so,
you?
Yeah, we literally had a blackout because of
What?
the fallen power line.
In the
Really?
middle of a grand final.
Yeah, so I ended up-
Oh my god.
Was
Yeah.
there like were people rioting the streets in your
Well,
neighborhood?
people on the community, the Rochdale community page, people were going
Oh, yeah.
nuts. But I ended up watching it with my son Harrison just on my phone,
Yeah.
on the 7 Plus app, just to the last quarter. And it was because the Wi-Fi was also going in and out as well, so it was like all grainy and stuff. But we ended up watching, and it was a godsend in the end having that. And I got to say, signing up for the app was really easy. I was like, when I downloaded it, I was like, oh, this is going to be a nightmare.
Yeah, the app's
Simple.
free, right? It's
Yeah.
just, I
It
remember
is.
doing it. Yeah.
This is their big push. Like you saw their fancy ad with. Did you see Shannon Knoll singing "What About Free"?
Oh, is that
Have you
what
seen that?
I did see
They
that.
must
I didn't put
have
2 and 2 together that that's what it was.
Bucket
Yes.
load.
Yes.
So it's him saying "What about free?" and it's them saying that cricket is free on the app this summer as well.
Okay.
So that's new.
So that's the 7 app that song's
Yeah,
for.
yeah.
Oh, I thought it was
So
just a-
Seven's on a big push about sport remaining on free to air.
Okay, and the AFL Grand Final now accounts for 2 of the top 3 programs so far in 2024. The Grand Final at number 1, and then the AFL Grand Final presentations at number 3. But it's all the same.
Oh, it
Yeah,
is
it's
the same.
Isn't it?
That doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
what's number 2? Doesn't
Origin?
say.
Well, it actually doesn't.
I would
say.
be interested to know how
Which
those
makes me think
numbers
it'd be Origin 'cause it's a
compare
7.
to the Matildas last year. Because that was the
That was the
highest
biggest
rated
ever.
show last year and potentially ever.
Yes.
So I'd be very
Sport.
interested to see. No, yeah, not even sport.
Was
just
it?
just in
No,
Australia,
biggest
the
moment.
biggest televised moment in Australian history.
most watched, and correct
Was
me
it
if I'm
nine?
wrong,
How
and
many?
I can't remember if the Matildas surpassed
Bigger than
Kathy
Kathy.
Freeman's run in the 400, or who's got. But I'm pretty
Yeah, I
sure
thought they did.
that our top 2 most watched TV moments ever, are both sport, and B, both female
sport.
sport.
Oh,
They
preach,
definitely are.
preach this, Ash. Can you?
I think honestly that we could be the only country in the world that has that as a record. Like that. I mean, I'm completely just making that up, but I can't imagine like the most watched television events in our nation's history. The top 2 are both female sporting events. I'm pretty sure.
So the Matildas semi-final against England smashed TV rating records. It's saying 11 million Australians
Holy hoo!
tuned in to watch the game on the 7 network.
Wow.
But then it's like, is that people? Is that rating boxes? Is that
I
actual?
don't know.
And Kathy is
Kathy's
at number
number
2.
2.
So there you
Okay, there you go.
The Ash, Lutzi and Susie Snackbox.
go. I see that Oasis. Now we've been talking about Oasis. They got their comeback gigs next year.
Not the boat.
Oh, right, yes.
No,
not
the
the
band.
boat.
I'm talking about Liam,
Not the
Noel.
boat. No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've got their tour next year. I tried to get tickets for the Wembley concert. Missed out on that. I was like 170,000th in line, and then 6 hours later I was under 100,000, but I fell asleep, so
And
I
you
missed
haven't-
out the tickets.
It hasn't turned you off, that whole poor performance that he put in at the wherever he played.
Before the heavyweight boxing,
Some are suggesting
No.
like no one's actually heard them sing for
That's-
a few years. I mean,
that's-
there's a chance they'll come out and they're bloody awful.
They've got time to sort it out.
they do. I reckon.
Mate, if you lose your voice, you lose your voice.
Together.
You know what I mean?
Isn't that just what? Don't you just lip sync?
No, those boys.
I'm just saying, if you've got no voice,
Well,
they'll
maybe,
be
but
right.
just imagine if they come out lip sync.
Listen.
It'd be even worse.
No, he won't. They
You'd
won't
do
that.
anything for money, okay?
No.
Well,
This money's been on the table for a lot of years.
I know,
It's
which
taken
is-
them to before they've been able to get it together.
Why are they so desperate suddenly?
I don't know. Well, I reckon that it's just. What's that?
They've got. Have they run out of money?
No, I don't think so.
I think they have. Something's gone wrong.
Oh, well,
Touring's the best way to make cash.
yeah. Well,
It's the
it's
only way.
Oh,
It's the
loving
only
this
way to
from
make
you three.
Well, anyway, the good news is for me is that they've announced that it's going to be a world tour, which is what we kind of heard like right from the start. Hey, stand by that they could be coming to Australia, and but they're not coming, of course, to
they're
where?
not.
Where wouldn't they?
Adelaide.
Yes, correct.
And
They're not going to
Brisbane.
Adelaide.
And Brisbane.
Brisbane.
Brisbane is the new Adelaide
Did
at the
they
moment.
get
as
their-
far
Sad,
as
isn't it?
music.
Did they get their tour from Taylor Swift?
Well, of course they did.
Yeah.
Exactly what's
Send us-
happening.
Send us your plan, Taylor. We'll follow where you went.
Well, that's what's happening though.
Sydney and
I'll tell
Melbourne.
you, and the big
Is that what
ones are-
Taylor did, by the way?
Yep.
Did she do
That's it.
Sydney and Melbourne?
Yeah,
That's what
multiple
Oasis are doing.
shows in each city, though.
That's exactly the point. Brisbane's off the grid because we can't field a crowd big enough to get these big superstars.
Yeah.
So we're just off the grid.
They're going to Boston, LA, Mexico, Seoul, Tokyo, Melbourne, and Sydney.
2 Australia shows.
2 Australia
and all
shows,
those
and they're
other
also
one
playing-
American show.
Sorry, Chicago as
Okay.
well, New Jersey,
Oh, okay.
which and also Toronto in Canada.
But not many. That's only 2 in America.
Yeah,
So they're doing as many
yeah.
here as America.
yeah. So everyone that if you've missed out, like me, stand by because an announcement is expected to come in the next week or so, vis-a-vis apropos tickets, etc., etc.
The Ash, Lutzi and Susie O'Neill podcast is a Nova podcast. For more great comedy shows like this, head to novapodcasts.com.au.